From Builder Studios, this is Calypso Social Media, the podcast for budding digital marketers and small business owners who believe in digital markets. I'm your host, Enoch Robobo Apia Jr. Today, we'll be talking about the future of mobile advertisement, and I have a very good friend of mine to help me have this conversation. He's in the person of Kwame, Addo. But before we dive into the conversation, I just wanted to thank a very good listener of mine, Clarissa. And because of Clarissa, for the first time on this podcast, I'll be able to refresh my guest, my friend who come on the show. So if you're out there, Clarissa, thank you. And also for new listeners of this show, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, consider subscribing wherever you are listening from, whether on Spotify or YouTube, because that is the only way you can get all the episodes that I'll be putting out in the subsequent months coming on. And it's also the only way you can support this show. I mean, one of the ways you can support the show. So yeah, without further ado, I want us to dive into the conversation about the future of mobile advertisement with Kwame Addo. All right, so Kwame, let's dive in. One of the questions that I ask on this show is the expectation of guests. So I want to ask you, what do you want to come out of this episode?
All right. Thank you so much, Enoch. I mean, I've seen what you started doing. I mean, with this particular show, I think I watched the first episode and a few other ones, subsequently, and I think it's worth commending. So just to say congrats. And I mean, we know that what you started would blossom and, become some very good resource for all of us, to learn from ourselves and then even from our other colleagues who also come on the show. Particularly on this show, I'm hoping to share the knowledge that I've acquired over the years, running media, doing media activities and media related services in the country and in the sub-region. Of course, with much more focus on mobile advertising, as you want me to speak, all right? Mm-hmm, so then, yeah. So speaking primarily on mobile advertising, just sharing the knowledge, and of course also, learning from you as well. And hopefully we get to, better the industry and get the best out of everybody.
All right. Now, before we dive in, the first question will come with a number, right? And looking at data reports, the report that comes out every year for media practitioners about, the digital landscape of various countries, Ghana included. Looking at the GSMA intelligence, it talks about over 38.95 million of Ghana's population have access to cellular mobile, meaning these people have mobile devices. And since mobile advertisements, did you say it's advertisement? Mobile advertising is inclusive of SMS marketing. And yet people are always complaining about data, data being expensive. Do you think with this number, this huge number, and in connection with the cost of data, do you think there's a future for mobile advertising in Ghana?
Yes, very, very much so. I mean, data costs, it's one of the hindrances to mobile, data consumption and, mobile usage across the sub-region and even globally, right? I hear, and I'll need to check this fact, but I've heard a number of people state the fact that even Ghana has a cheaper mobile data, cost per data usage versus other markets and all that. But regardless of the cost, for a particular product or service, I think it's more about the need for the service, right? So because of how impactful and how glued a lot of us are to the internet, and how it benefits us in several ways, regardless of the cost, I'm sure definitely, the growth over the years, if you look at the numbers, has been going high and high every time. And I don't see it coming down in any way.
Kwame, if you are being called to give the state of the mobile advertising reports, like right now we've called you, so instead of you to talk about State of the Union, you are going to talk about the state of the mobile advertising. What would you say?
All right. So I mean, mobile advertising, has been on an upward journey.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years. I mean, I remember when you used to run campaigns, you'd see a very huge number of the impressions and views and all that coming from, desktop, right? Because then, that was the biggest channel for advertising back in the day. But over time, we've seen mobile take over. From 50% in back in the day to we run campaigns and you see like 90%, even when you don't even limit it to mobile, right? You see display campaigns giving you like a 90% plus of banner ads being served, onto mobile. It's even worse when you go into social, because most of us access these platforms from our phones. Even when we are working on a desktop, most of the time you defer to taking your phone to even have access to social. So mobile advertising, broadly speaking, has been on an upward journey. Specifically from the time where it was primarily based on SMS, right? Because then, so it started surging, riding on the wave of when mobile devices, came into the system, and the primary form of communication for mobile devices then was SMS and then voice, right? And that was the case back in the day. So then we used to have just bulk SMS partners as the main means of when it comes to mobile advertising from a mobile tech platform perspective, right? So then it used to be just bulk SMS, but then it's evolved over the years to now have targeted, mobile advertising partners, delivering targeted mobile advertising. So instead of just collecting first-party data and sending like a bulk SMS to people, now you're able to tap into telco data and then use to serve, mobile advertising to audiences right from their mobile devices, right? And it's evolving even much more now with AI, enabling targeting to be much more precise, being able to even predict how audiences are going to react to particular content based on their search data, their browser data, all that feeding into platforms for advertisers to be able to use to reach the right audiences at the right time. And of course, one big area which has now evolved, not fully yet, but to a very large extent, is RCS, Rich Communication Service, which enables SMS to become as savvy as you would have your typical, let's say, like your WhatsApp or Ayuba platform, right? Because then you're able to send like videos right from inside SMS, you're able to send emojis, you're able to actually create groups and all that, to interact with audiences without having to download an external app onto the platform. So we typically say RCS is SMS on steroids, right?
Let's stay on RCS, right? Can you show me, I've been getting a lot of SMS, right? But then if I show you an SMS now, what makes it an RCS?
Right. So RCS still comes as a message in your SMS feed. That
is
right?
one.
It's cuts across the basics, right, for both SMS and RCS. But the difference is this is rich communication service, right? So then
now,
this allows
the rich, are you going there? I want you to explain the rich.
So this allows you to receive rich format or rich media messages right from inside your SMS feed. So rich media messages could be a display banner ad. So instead of getting a display banner ad or only when you go on, let's say, a Google website or a generic, page, you can literally get it as you get a notification like a message. You might probably think it's Momo. Yeah. But it can be a brand, banner display being displayed right inside your SMS feed. It could be a video, message that could be sent to you, and then it could actually even it has several ways that it's been native ads and all that being deployed from an RCS perspective.
Awesome. But then talking about this rich, right? Rich, that means it can only be shown on premium phones, smartphones. But then aren't you limiting yourself? What about these other dumb phones?
Yes. So that's where that's what I was saying about AI. enabling advertisers and all that to be able, and mobile tech partners like ourselves to be able to tell the devices that users are using, right? So then because you're able to tell the device people are using, when you're sending a message to a smartphone or a very high-end device, you're able to send the full-blown of video and all that
with all the
rich content, right? But then you're able to do like renditions for maybe
phones.
A feature phone, because it's just a button that the person will be using to access it. So maybe you can send a regular SMS, but it has a button in there that you can click and it takes you to a website. Right, and then you can engage on it, or you could send like a generic, SMS. Like back in the day, if it's a dumb phone. So basically, just saying, it gives you options as an advertiser to be able to reach different target audience based on the objective of the campaign.
Kwame, let's paddle back a little to when you said you are able to get data from telcos. Is it not breaching some privacy?
We get that a lot. We get that question a lot.
Right.
But the direct answer is no.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why it's no.
I'm relaxed there.
Okay.
If you say no, then I'm relaxed.
So it's actually no. And it's no because Ghana is an opt-out market. What I mean by an opt-out market is that once you take ownership of a SIM card and then you slot it in and then you set it up, you get it registered and all that, there are some key messages that come up, and as part of the messages is a notification that says that you're enabling the telco and its partners to use the data for advertising purposes in a very sustainable and safe manner, right? However, there's an obligation on us as advertisers to also ensure
that you are
every
going
message,
by that.
we're going by that, and then every message that also goes out to the user has the option to say,
no.
Well, I said, from the onset that you can serve me advertising, but now I'm not interested. So then you're able to send an opt-out to say, send stop to maybe 5136 or something, so right, to opt out of receiving that. So generally speaking, you've opted in at the point of entry of owning the SIM card, but then you have the option to always opt out. And then once you opt out, of course, you get to be taken out of the database and all that. And the partnership with telcos is just because the partnership is done from like an API level conversation, right? So then there is an integration that has been done. So it's not like contacts or traffic data, and all that is being shared. No. It's just systems communicating to be able to say, okay, this particular user, which is not even a phone number, it's a user ID, right? So then it's not visible to any individual to know that it's Enoch that I'm sending the message, but it's just a particular user with a particular behavior on the network, right? You're able to use that to say, okay, I want to reach someone who is a high
spender.
LSM, high spender in terms of data, airtime, and all that. They can use that to classify you, and then advertising can be served to you.
Okay, let's stay on that one. One last question. You say you are able to segment based on the person's spending habits, right? For me, if it comes to getting what you call credit, I buy it monthly. When it comes to internet, I have my own in-house internet. I don't buy data. So is there a way to get me if I don't buy data, but then I use my home Wi-Fi, and even when I get to the office, there's an office Wi-Fi. So practically, if I'm getting back home, I don't use internet. So practically, I'm always on Wi-Fi. Is there also a possibility to get those?
Oh, okay. Once you are on the internet, your entire spending pattern and several other even data that has to do with what you entered regards age, demographics, type of device you use, all those data is available. So then you overlay all that data to say, okay, this person spends X amount of data in a month, averagely in a month, right? And then also spends this amount of airtime in a month, right? And then consumes this maybe amount of SMS in a month. So averagely, you're able to, over a period, average it out and say, okay, this person is maybe a high spender, what we call a high ARPU, average revenue per user. Right, so then you're able to say there's a high average revenue per user person, where in marketing we will say it's a high LSM, living standard measure, determining the classification of the person to say, okay, this is a high LSM person, so that maybe if for a particular brand that wants to speak to a high LSM person or a mid or a low LSM person, you're able to use that. So it's not just one targeting criteria that is used. I mean, the number of buckets of targeting criteria that are used to be able to filter audiences and then identify them and serve content to them.
That's brilliant. One, from just this small conversation that we had, what I've gotten from out of this is that, one, I should rest assured, because when you guys are running a mobile advertising campaign, you are not breaching any privacy protocol, because Ghana is an opt-in country. Once I get opt-out country, once I get the SMS, I can choose to opt out. Exactly. And that's why there is the send stop to so then you won't get it again. Right. And again, you are not necessarily using my number, but then based on my usage pattern, the kind of data, the amount of data that I buy, the core credit that I buy. So it's not necessarily me as a person, but then someone who fits my profile of profile.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And last but not the least, it's also one of the best ways, because practically you can get everybody in the advertiser's perspective. So if you wanna you are still thinking about going into mobile advertising, you should, because it has feature on that.
Exactly. So I mean, mobile advertising gives you two things primarily that we usually like to say. One is reach, right? Because just as we said, the data says over 100% of the audience, of the Ghanaian base, versus mobile devices, right? So mobile devices outweigh the population by over 100%. Right, which we put, if realistically speaking, we say, okay, because of double SIMing and double phones, being used by people, we say 50%. So that gives you like averagely, reaching 50% of the entire population. Right,
which is great.
But versus social and other platforms, which usually would have maybe like a 40% or a 30% reach, and all that, and and that's even because you've halved it based on the assumption that or the nuance that people are using. A lot more people are using like two phones and all that as well. So it's a huge channel when it comes to the reaching audience, right? And I know for a number of advertisers and agencies, reach is one key criteria, objective, right? Because then you want to be able to reach as many people as possible, so you can have most of them convert or some of them convert, as opposed to the frequency conversation of reaching the same people over and over again, right? So then reach, when it comes to mobile advertising, from an ad tech perspective, it's very big on that side. The other thing is also targeting, right? Because then the level of data that is available to the advertiser in that case is enormous, right? Because then you're able to target all the various buckets that we described, which are generally not available on social, nor on display. Right, so then it gives you some level of precision, in reaching clients. So precision targeting or precision marketing campaigns are very, very effective from a mobile advertising approach.
Also, my next question, you've sort of answered a bit of it, but then I think if I probe further, you'll be able to give more. If you compare the traditional marketing, what is the benefit, the pros and cons of mobile advertising over 7 hours on desktop?
So typically from an advertiser perspective and experience, you'd always say multi-channel approach, right? Because then you don't want to focus on a particular channel, and then lose out on the possibility on reaching your audience on other channels. Or even when you're reaching other channel, audiences on one channel, when they see your ads across other channels as well, it also reinforces what they've seen. right? And it makes it more, interesting for, it takes them to the next level of, design to get your products, and obviously eventually converting, as well. So particularly to the pros of mobile advertising, beyond what I've talked about regards the level of the targeting that's available and then the reach that is available, is also things around personalization, right? So because then mobile gives you the opportunity to be able to be very personalized in the way you engage your audiences, right? Because then you are reaching them right on their mobile device, regardless of whether they are on any social platform, or they are on any maybe website or whatever it is, right? You're able to still reach them directly right on their mobile phones, engage them, and then obviously, of course, based on the data, once again, as I've said, you're able to make it much more engaging or personalized. And especially with the AI being introduced in campaigns and platforms, it's super personalized to a point where there's that level of synergy between the kind of comms that you are communicating out and then the kind of audiences that you are looking to speak to.
Awesome. So where do you see mobile advertising the next 3 to 5 years? We can just focus on Ghana, and based on your experience in other regions, you can also bring that in.
Right. So, with the advent of, AI, VR, and then AR and all that, I see mobile advertising as, a channel that is really, really, really going to revolutionize the way we go about, our media planning and buying. Making it much more prevalent in media plans, from advertisers, and brands and all that, because then we have a number of media partners, trying out mobile advertising in the form of, it's much more sophistication that is being provided now, right? Beyond just bulk SMS as we used to have it, and the results speak for itself, right? So then, with that as a case in point, I see advertisers, gravitating more towards it, and then the platform itself also becoming much more, richer. And much more engaging to users, because then they don't have to, in most cases, or in some cases has been done in other markets, they don't have to spend on data and airtime, right? Because then it's being taken care of from the advertiser's perspective, or sometimes it's even being taken care of from the the telco. The telco side as well, right? Because then everyone wants that particular sector to grow. If you're looking at RCS, Apple, from its new devices that are coming up this summer, are going to be RCS enabled.
Wow.
Yeah, Google has been RCS enabled for a long time. Yeah. But Apple had always been quite adverse to it. There won't be the battle,
the green bubbles and the blue bubbles again.
Not at all. Not at all. Because then everybody is going to be able to have access to RCS comms, and that takes the available audience from where it is to double and maybe even more in the next future.
Apple fanboys, they don't have anything to brag about them.
Well, we'll find out about that soon.
Okay, so Kwame, my next question, let's try and find something for businesses. How can businesses leverage mobile advertising to reach their targeted audience? Yeah.
So for businesses, at the end of the day, it's about speaking to your audiences at the right place, at the right time, right? And at the right place, being from a mobile perspective, from being on their mobile phones, right? From when they wake up early morning and they want to check the time or turn off their alarm, or when they are going to bed and they want to say good night, or send that message to that person, that really. So mobile is basically part of their entire journey, right? So then from and that's where, as a brand or a business entity, it gives you a lot of touch points to be able to speak directly to the user without them having to have gone on to any other platform, right? And then engage or send your comms to the audience. And then also for the business, also makes it, much more effective, and even more efficient, based on the cost per action that, the brand would want to, whether it's a video view they would want to drive, whether it's an engagement they would want to drive inside the feed, or it's actually getting people to click, onto a mobile site or any platform.
What's a mobile site? Yeah.
So a mobile site is basically, let me just say it's a website that is built for mobile first. Right. So then, basically a website is built, and then it's being enabled for mobile. That way, when users receive an SMS, they're able to click on it, and then it redirects them to a mobile.
So then that means all websites are mobile sites.
No. Yeah, most websites or some websites nowadays are built with a mobile first approach. Right. In fact, scrap the most.
Okay.
Some websites, right, especially in our part of the world, are built with a mobile first approach, right? But the experience is largely, most websites that are built were built for a desktop first. So when you go on it from a mobile view, the interface and all that is not very friendly. Right. But this is mobile sites are just focusing the platform for mobile usage.
Right.
So when you get like an SMS, for example, or when you get a display banner inside maybe your MTN Hoots platform or Ayuba platform, right? And then you click on it. The intention is because the platform is on mobile, you are landing on a mobile site, right? Not a website that would rescale and give you that entire website view. But this is limited to mobile because that's what you want the people to stay in a mobile environment.
Got it. All right. Still with our businesses, if a business wants to include mobile advertising into their mix, what are some of the considerations that they need to put in place?
So firstly is understanding the target audience when it comes to a mobile. Their mobile habits, right?
Mobile usage habits.
Yes, mobile usage habits, you can say, because then that helps you to be able to tell, the time of the day that they are heavily on their mobile, the kind of devices that they use based on the, your persona that you've plotted of the kind of audience that you want to speak to, right? And that will now inform, or that will now guide us to be able to say, okay, these are the kind of data points that can be used to reach these kind of user from a mobile perspective, right? And then of course, also budget allocation, obviously, from the entire marketing budget, a fraction of it's going into mobile advertising, right? Seeing the result and obviously, of course, optimizing as you do, to ensure that the campaign becomes, delivers the best of value from a mobile side.
Now let's put our advertisers hat down.
Yeah.
Right now we are talking as, I want us to talk as consumers. How should consumers expect mobile advertising to change their mobile usage habits moving on?
Right. So from a consumer's perspective, right, there are a lot of gains, when it comes to mobile advertising. Because then it provides a very, very personalized or relevant way, right, where consumers get to receive brand messages. So think of it from a perspective of maybe you are an expecting mom, for example, right? And then you get a message from, a brand, that is also speaking to expecting moms, right? Right from your mobile device, without you even going on social or going on any platform, right? Because then the brand is able to tell from, behavior on mobile and all that to say, okay, this is an audience that will be interested in that particular. Or let's say you're a business owner interested in some financing, or let me say a loan facility or whatever it is, and you have an institution, just reach out to you because then they know from data that has been gathered on your patterns and all that, right? So then that gives you some relevant content, right, to be able to use to better our general experience
on mobile.
On mobile, right? And of course there's also once again, because of the options of opting out and because of the regulatory frameworks that are in place, from an NCE and even telco perspective, because the telco industry is the most regulated industry, close to the finance, if not more than the finance sector.
Interesting.
Right? Obviously because of all these issues and concerns that are raised. So it's because of all these regulations, also gives the user the opportunity to be able to limit the level of
messages
access that brands or advertisers have on their content. So
all right, so from all this conversation, what I'm getting is that there's feature for mobile advertising, and as an advertiser you should include mobile advertising into your mix, right? Awesome. One last thing, I know we talked about the future and you've been mentioning a bit of AI here and there, but I haven't dived deep into AI. That's actually my last but one question. So how does AI help with mobile advertising?
Right. So then the AI, platforms.
And where does it even sit? Does it sit? Is it the AI? Because I'm on Pixel, so there's AI in there. So is it the AI that sits on my phone that helps advertiser to target me? Where does it sit? Let's start from there. Then we can talk about how it helps advertisers.
Right. So it primarily sits from the mobile advertising platforms, or let me say the mobile advertising partners platform, right? So if you take Mobax as a platform, right, Mobax is enabled with AI functionalities to be able to better understand the data that is being collected from a user's journey, right, or digital footprint when it comes to mobile device, regards all the data criteria that we've spoken about, right? Overlay all of them and to be able to better inform or even predict, right, what will be of interest to the user, right? So then, yes, sometimes the prediction might not be accurate, but then once the user turns that particular thing that maybe might not open it because there's no interest to me, the AI now learns to say, okay, this thing that I thought was relevant to this user actually is not. So then it's able to recalibrate and then, become much smarter in the way these messages or, comes. So you're able to just be much more effective in the way communication is being done to the users, just enabled primarily by these AI integrations and AI bots that have been built into mobile advertising and even other digital platforms as well.
I have a lot of conversation on that in my previous episode.
Oh, right. Right.
When it comes to tools, you made mention of Mobax. Is that the one that you recommend if I want to go into mobile advertising, or there are some that you recommend?
Yeah, Mobax is one huge platform. That from a mobile advertising perspective has networked a number of telcos, right? So then there's a number of telcos across various markets. They've been aggregated on the Mobax platform, right? So then that enables users to be able to serve these comms and these messages to the right audiences on the platform. So the major hindrance to mobile advertising from back in the day was just the silos that were being built around telcos, having different servers and all that, right? But because of platforms like Mobax, you're able to now serve ads to right audiences, tapping into that data, whether you're in Ghana, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, in South Africa, working with a team, out there media, to be able to serve the right message to the right audiences right from the mobile advertising platform Mobax.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was a fun ride, right?
It was.
And finally,
you made it fun.
You'll be able to do this. Once again, that has been another insightful episode of Colors of Social Media. If I didn't get anything from this episode, I know that my data is safe with advertisers, and that based on my browsing habits, they are able to serve personalized ads to me that will make sense to me. I want to say a big thank you to Clarissa for supporting this episode by providing something to soothe my guest's throat. And once again, Kwame Addo has been the guest for this episode. If you want to reach out to Kwame Addo, I'll drop his contact numbers in the description below or in the show notes below. Kwame Addo is specialized in everything marketing, be it digital or traditional, mobile advertising, anything. You can just reach out to him. I will drop his contact details in the show notes below or in the description below if you are watching on YouTube. Thank you for staying with me for this episode of Calypso Social Media. See you next time.
This episode, just like any other episode of Callers of Social Media podcast, is produced by Builder Studios and recorded at Tribal Mark Studios, 13 Asiko Street, Tantra Hills, Accra.
Daddy.